Hey everyone, welcome to this new moon Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is for the new moon on Friday, April 5th, 2019, and also the day leading up to that for the 4th. All right, so new moon in Pisces. If you're expecting me to say Aries just then, be sure to check out the link down below. We are using the actual size of the constellations, which does change the signs from mainstream astrology. All right, so new moon in Pisces. This is definitely a time of new beginnings in terms of what you might call our spiritual side, our intuitive side, our accepting side of essentially accepting what is and surrendering what's outside of our control to essentially live more presently and be more in tune with the undercurrents of life. So with this new moon, we do have a square up to Pluto, who's very close to the south node right now, and also Saturn. So with this new moon, it's an excellent time to challenge ourselves, and particularly to let go of some patterns, perhaps, maybe some cycles we're noticing in our life, challenge ourselves maybe with facing some fears, and with Saturn, really seeing the long road, the patient road, and developing this sort of patience and responsibility and discipline and really persistence when it comes to these long-term visions and things that we could be working on. All right, so that's pretty much it. New moon, square up to those planets. So let's take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. All right, so here is the chart for the new moon. It is going to be at 0419 Eastern time on Friday, April 5th. So if you want to make that calculation for wherever you are in the world, we'll be at 0419 Eastern time of the Americas. All right, so new moon in Pisces. We've had a lot of Piscean energy already lately. We've had Mercury retrograde over Neptune for a very long time, the past month and a half. The sun's also been transiting through Pisces for almost a month now. So we are still, we're quite acclimated to the energy. This new moon is going to be in the later half of Pisces. But now it certainly is a time of new beginnings with further developing these qualities of life. So Pisces, if we look up at the sky, we do see that it's the constellation of the fish. And there are two fish essentially swimming in opposite directions, tied together by a string to a center point. So if we kind of analyze the constellation a little bit, we can see that first of all, if we're talking about fish, we're talking about water. This is a water energy. So it very much is about listening, feeling, trusting our intuition, putting energy into life in where the current is taking us, right? Feeling that current. So that could be the intuition or whatever. And putting energy into where that current is taking us. That's what fish do. So that's the sort of water and swimming side to it. Now, they are in opposite directions or swimming in opposite directions, which is symbolic of duality as well. And so with Pisces, it's very important to, from that present moment, to be aware of duality as a sort of product of the mind, you could say, that we naturally see things in terms of good, bad, right, left, right, this kind of dual paradox that as we sort of become aware of both of, we can transcend, so to speak, that duality. So it's also about seeing that side of it, the center point when it comes to things in life. So the fact that they're tied together is also symbolic of that we're all tied together. All right, again, the oceans of life, and this could be the collective. It's just life in and of itself in the essence, and recognizing that we are all tied together. And the strings here in this constellation are sort of centering into a point, right? So there are two strings coming to a point, and that point is also very symbolic, which is that we're all connected to the essence of life in the sense of maybe the present moment, or the source of life, or God, depending on what your spiritual perspective is on that. Now, this isn't about philosophy or religion or anything like that with Pisces. That's more Sagittarian territory. But this is recognizing that we are connected to that point. We share that center point. And so really good to connect to that. Again, maybe present moment, maybe God, maybe source, however you see that. So these are some of the things we can derive from this. So this is a time of new beginnings now. As we approach the new moon, it is a good time to clear. So as we go through the 4th here on Thursday, good time to just sit with the energy, acclimate to it, see what new is shaping up. But then especially the later part of Friday, going into the weekend, we may notice some new things coming in that are further helping us develop this side of ourself, right? So the side of ourself that is listening and feeling the current. The side of ourself that is putting action to where that current is taking us. Developing things like our intuition, our creativity, our imagination, our ideals and dreams, right? Now recognizing them as dreams and living presently, again, that's important. But it is good to follow that sort of, inclination there of what is these ideals and dreams we may have. And then also spirituality, of course, great time for new beginnings with spiritual activities like meditation, and maybe getting some solitude, and really, again, coming to that center point, compassion, right? So when it comes to interpersonal connections, also having that accepting nature, which you could call compassion, right? And understanding and space and giving space and things. So really good for this type of energy, however you're going to be feeling it. Now, down below in the comment section, I am going to put which house this is for each of the signs. So do check that out if you want to see specifically if this is in your career sector or home sector or whatever it might be. Do check that out. All right, so that's the most essential thing with the new moon. This is the lowest phase of the lunar cycle, lowest energy time. So again, just a good time approaching the weekend to just sit with the energy, see what new is shaping up, but also maybe set some intentions of incorporating more of this Piscean qualities into our life. All right, so let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is this square up to Pluto, who's now passing over the south node, and also Saturn, who's of course very close by. So squares are about challenging ourselves, right? These are the kinds of times in our life where this is when things actually get done. This is the most constructive type of aspect in astrology. Now, it can sometimes feel challenging, sometimes collectively, and of course, this doesn't mean everyone in the world with this is going to experience this, in a challenging sense. And in fact, it's not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be us challenging ourselves. That is the best way of working with the square. And with a square up to particularly Pluto and the south node is challenging ourselves to release some patterns. With the south node, to be aware of, are there any patterns that we're repeating in our life? And to be aware of them, and simply being aware of them, we might just naturally want to release them, but of course allowing them to be let go. Now with the south node, this means that roughly about 3 months ago, when we had those solar eclipses, so let's just say around January, there was that kind of new shift regarding our life path and regarding some things that shifted at that time. So we're now in the first quarter of that with the square to the south node, which is symbolic of now challenging ourselves regarding anything that shifted around the January time. So again, seeing what that was, setting some intentions, challenging ourselves to maybe move some of that energy forward or to release some energy. So Pluto and the south node are a lot about cycles. They're about concerns. So it could also be releasing concerns, releasing our comfort zones, things like this. And again, challenging ourselves specifically with Pluto to maybe face some fears. Again, in this context, that can be very self-empowering. In fact, with this square up to Pluto, it can be very, very self-empowering new moon, especially when we're setting intentions, again, facing fears, and just practicing non-attachment, essentially. Right? Because when we are non-attached to something, at least to the outcome of it, so if we're non-attached, it doesn't mean it's not important to us, but we can be non-attached to the outcome. And this is what squares to Pluto can really help us do, because from that arises empowerment. And like I said, that's fundamentally what's happening here, is this greater collective self-empowerment from this. All right, and then the Saturn side to it is, of course, challenging ourselves to see the long road, to see the big picture. Things take time. Developing patience, persistence, right? And maybe even responsibilities to some of these long-term things or structures we built in our life or things that are important to us on that level. So really good to do this, to do the right thing, the responsible thing, the patient thing, right? With the square up to Saturn as well. And again, challenging ourselves to do that. All right, everyone. So that is the new moon in a nutshell. Also, it's noteworthy to mention that these 3 planets are in Sagittarius. So a lot of this will be about our beliefs. And so challenging ourselves, challenging our beliefs, you could say. All right, challenging what's possible in our life, listening to our spirit for life. And from that spirit for life, challenging ourselves to maybe follow our path that might be guiding us towards, again, releasing some patterns, facing some fears, taking the long road perspective. All right. Now, the new moon is an opposite Virgo, but it's always good to kind of bring in the opposite energy. So with this very receptive energy that we're developing now with the new moon, always good to balance it with maybe the routine, building good habits on a day-to-day level, health, diet, our work, our service, the routine, all of that can really help balance out this new spiritual development that we're cultivating at this time. All right, everyone, so that's the new moon in a nutshell. Most important thing, new beginning with Piscean energy, listening, feeling, developing our intuition, that receptive side, and essentially just staying grounded in the present moment, right? Because when we are truly accepting of what is, that is living presently, right? We're accepting what is now, because that's really the only thing that exists, right? Everything else is a byproduct of the mind, the future, the past. These are the duality kinds of things. But Pisces helps us live presently and accept what is, and from that, spiritual bliss, spiritual happiness. This is the last sign of the Zodiac, which is coming full circle back around to finding that true inner peace. All right, so everyone have a fantastic new moon. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all here in a couple days for the weekend forecast. Take care.